Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we're looking at an archetype that made one space of the top 32 in Anaheim Regionals, and that is going to be Solgaleo Lurantis. This was actually first sort of revealed in the Elite Trainer box, and it was sort of laughed at the time, and then, you know, some people actually tried it, and it's kind of good in the end. One of the only ways we're seeing Solgaleo work right now, and the concept is very simple. Get a load of energy into play with Soul Burst, blow things up, then recharge with Lurantis, then blow things up. It's, you know, very simple, trying to capitalize on the new Solgaleo GX card, which we all have said has bags of potential, and also the Lurantis, which has been said to have lots of potential also. The immediate synergy wasn't obvious, but now that we've sort of tried it out and we're willing to give it a go, the consistency issues are there because it's a stage 1 and stage 2 deck all in one package. But when it does work, it's a very, very difficult to beat archetype because you just hit so hard, one hit KO everything in your path, and you have a lot of HP of your own. So really, things 2 hitting into you means that you take 4 prizes to the 2 prizes that you go down, and that's always going to be favourable for you. So let's jump into the list. First of all, Solgaleo is the first place I want to look. It's a 4-2-3 line, which is an odd line. We need to definitely have 4 Cosmogs because it's the Pokemon that we need to evolve from, and it's really important to get multiple down onto the bench on the first turn because they only have 60 HP and they're easily knocked out. Then we're playing 2 Cosmoem. Cosmoem is the middle form, 90 HP, so it's levelable, searchable, which is nice. Its retreat cost is huge, but we don't really care as long as we have our abilities because Ultra Road is fantastic. And its own attack can actually switch itself to the bench as well. But really, we play 2 Cosmoem because oftentimes we need 2 Solgaleo to be set up during the game. So having Cosmoem protects us against things like item lock, and additionally just means that if we have 2 Cosmogs on the bench, we can Candy Solgaleo 1, and then we can Cosmog into another one, hoping to later not need the combo of Candy Solgaleo again. Now we just need to find Solgaleo, and we get going. So it's a bit easier to set up multiple Solgaleos. I played around with just cutting 1 of the Cosmogs. We are playing 2 Super Rod in here, so it's probably fine. For now, I've not pulled the trigger on that, but if you're looking for a space desperately, that could potentially be one. But right now, I'm happy with the 2 count, because it is important. Obviously, really, the whole deck just functions off Solgaleo, so it's important to have them in here. Next up, we have a 3 count of Solgaleo GX. It has 250 HP, which is filth. It's really, really huge. It's very difficult to take down. Its ability is also fantastic. Ultra Road, once during a turn you may switch your active Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. So it's essentially switch, but in an ability. This really means that you don't care about the 3 retreat cost of Solgaleo, or the 2 retreat cost of Lurantis. And it even means in opening turns, you can like retreat your Cosmogs and Fomantises into things like Shaymin and Cobalion, which are more likely to take a hit on turn 2, and then you can Ultra Road back into the active once you find your rare candy. So this can help keep your lower forms healthier in the early turns and make sure that you aren't dropping prizes straight away. Because decks like Turbo Dark easily get to 60 by turn 2, but it's very difficult for them to go to 120 by turn 2, or equally 110 for Shaymin. So that's something to bear in mind. But in general, when you have this ability online, it just makes the combo really work. You go from using Solgaleo's attacks, switching into Lurantis to then recharge the energy, and then switching back to then one-hit KO something else. Let me explain where the one-hit KOs come from. That's going to be the Sunsteel Strike attack that Solgaleo GX has. For 2 metal and a colourless, you deal 230 damage. So really it's only other Solgaleos and Decidueyes that can actually tank these hits. And bear in mind, we also will be poking things for 40 damage with Lurantis. So if we're not getting a one-hit KO, we are extremely close to a one-hit KO, and then we can finish things off with Lurantis anyway. So this really does just blow up a large proportion of the format. That's what's important. Fury Belted, Darkrai's, Yveltals, Mega Rays, Mega Gardevoirs, everything just gets absolutely wrecked by this attack. So anything in its path, Solgaleo is just going to knock it out straight away, and that's what's really cool about the deck. You do have to discard all energy from him, which is a bit awkward, but that's where the second part of the strategy, the Lurantis, comes into play. So how are we going to start getting not only a stage 2 stat up, but also a bunch of energy to start using this attack? Well, Solburst GX is the main thing we go for here, and really, turn 2, it's all about trying to hit Candy Solgaleo with a Metal Energy. If you can do that, you're very chuffed with yourself, because you get to use this GX attack, you get to search a deck for 5 energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. Again, this is absolutely phenomenal. It sets up not only your active Solgaleo, but also potentially Lurantis or other Solgaleos that you have on the bench, even things like Cosmogs and Cosmoems. You can start putting one metal here or there just to have them for future turns when you do evolve up into your Pokemon. This is fantastic. I've already mentioned that you have 250 HP, so on turn 2, you're likely to Soul Burst onto himself in the active at least a couple times, because you are pretty certain that you can tank a hit and then Sunsteel Strike next turn. So yeah, it's just a fantastic GX attack. It's the one that we go for over Lurantis's, unless it's a very specific matchup, like an Aqua Box or something, where we can go for Lurantis more heavily. So yeah, Soul Burst is often the go-to move on turn 2, and from there you get into the loop, which is very nice. So, from there we have a 3-2 line of Lurantis. Fomantis does have a decent attack actually. Synthesis allows you to search your deck for grass and attach it to one of your Pokemon. The deck functions heavily off getting energy on the board and discarding those energy and then getting them back on the board. So if you're not able to, obviously you can't evolve on the first turn, so having Fomantis in the active, going for a Synthesis isn't that bad. Even if it's just finding another grass energy from the deck and putting it onto another Fomantis, it means that if your active Fomantis is going to get knocked out, that's a grass in the discard pile, which you can then use with Lurantis later on. And of course it plucks a grass out of the deck, so it's one less dead draw for you, so you're more likely to hit your combos. So it's a very small note, but it's something to bear in mind. And then you just have 2 Lurantis GX. Not really a main attacker, like we've seen it in a couple of other lists, but he just serves a fantastic support role. 210 HP is also really, really bulky. Its first attack is the main one that we use in this deck. Flower Supply deals 40 damage and allows you to attach 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way that you like. So, a lot of the time, turn 2, we go Soul Burst. Turn 3, we Sunsteel Strike, and either we get knocked out or we don't. If we don't get knocked out, we Ultra Road into our Lurantis, and Lurantis is going to use Flower Supply to put 2 more energies onto that Solgaleo for the following turn. So it's pretty perfect, really. The combo is very solid. Even that's just getting one Solgaleo, one Lurantis out. And oftentimes this deck plays a lot of ball search, a lot of draw. We try and manipulate ourselves to get a second Solgaleo out pretty much at that point in the game. That'll be turn 4-ish, so around that time it's not inconceivable that you'll have another Solgaleo going. Additionally, it says anywhere that you like, so you can start attaching it to, again, itself. It's also a decent attacker because Solar Blade, for 2 grass and a colourless, deals 120 and heals 30 from this. And what's really awesome is against non-EX matchups. So Lurantis is really good and Solgaleo is really bad, so they complement each other perfectly. In decks where you need to blow 3 big EXs up, Lurantis is great just for flower supplying and recharging the Solgaleo. But in the non-EX matchups, you can actually just use Lurantis to power up himself and start firing off Solar Blade, because Solar Blade does 120 base, that's dealing with most non-EX Pokemon, and you're also adding the heal in there as well, so that high HP plus the heal plus KOing 1 non-EX a turn consistently is much nicer than just having to spend, you know, a huge amount of overkill on a big 230 burst where you lose all that energy. So Lurantis is fantastic in a lot of situations. It's really good. Even just flower supplying to itself to then KO with Shaymin or something later on is very strong. Its GX attack does 50 times the amount of grass attached to itself, but you're rarely going to use this because Soul Burst is often the go-to move. So yeah, bear that in mind. 3-2 line of Lurantis, very important in the deck. From there, our non-EX of choice is going to be Cobalion. We like Cobalion mainly because otherwise this deck gets walled out by Glaceon EX, so we're choosing Cobalion. He does have the Quick Guard attack, which prevents any damage done to his Pokemon by basic Pokemon during your next turn. This can be pretty handy in the early turns, but oftentimes the opponent will be looking to Lysandre KO Cosmogs anyway, so it's something to bear in mind, but not too strong. Revenge Blast is really why it's in the list. For 2 metal, it does 30 plus 30 more for each prize card your opponent has taken. Oftentimes we go down in prizes with this deck. Cosmogs and Fomantises have very low HP, and even when Solgaleo can tank hits, it'll eventually get knocked out. So dropping down a few prizes can be really good for a late game Cobalion to start swinging. What I like is that its energy attack cost is just 2. So while we're doing all this shenanigans with Soul Burst and Lurantis using Flower Supply, we just have a cheeky 2 energy attacker that can also finish out a game as well. So for when the combo's not working perfectly, or if we just have spare attachments in our turn, we can shove them onto Cobalion and he becomes a threat. At any point in the game, you can just manipulate 1 energy onto Cobalion and you can just have him waiting for the entire game basically to finish it off for you. And yeah, pretty good attack. It gets large and it's a nice counter to Glaceon, like I say. Then we just have 2 Shaymin EX to draw us some cards as per usual. We need to be consistent. We need to get as many Cosmog and Fomantis onto the bench as quickly as possible. It's not rare for this deck to fill the bench to 5 turn 1. It's really not, because we need to get multiple Cosmogs and Fomantises out, and the way that we've built the list is hoping to do that quite consistently. So for the items, the one of Max Potion is a cool one. Solgaleo discards all the energy from himself, and if he can tank a hit, you can simply Max Potion that off, and then Ultra Road into the bench, and you can reset him with with Lurantis, and, you know, the threat is all over again, something else that they have to deal with. You can only fit 1, but we do play 2 Skyla in here, so hopefully at the right situations you can pull it out of the deck and use it. It's pretty niche, but it's really a big swing in a game if you're able to pull off the Max Potion. I wish I had space for more, but really you just have to be consistent with the deck. There's no point trying to play more Max Potions if you can't get your combo going in the first place. So we're just playing 1. It completely changes games if you hit it off. So yeah, with a couple of Skyla in the list, I feel confident that you get enough value to make it worth the 1 slot, but I don't think it'll ever be worth more than that. 2 Super Rod in the list. I'm preferring 2 Rod just because even though we are flower supplying, the net loss of energy is quite high, and you pull so many out of the deck with early Soul Bursts that you do need to recycle them back into the deck so that we have manual attachments for turns. This is very important. Also, because we're playing 2 thick evolution lines, if we prize certain pieces or if some get knocked out, it's really important to Super Rod them back in to make sure that we can keep getting our attackers functioning. So 2 Rod is pretty important. Then we're playing 3 Levelable for the Fomantis, Cosmog, and Cosmoem. I've already mentioned a lot that you want to spam these as much as possible in the early turns. Levelable helps you do that. On top of that, we've got the 4 Ultra Ball to get us into Solgaleo, Lurantis, and Shaymin for the most part. Just the things that we need to get, really. It's pretty simple. And 4 Rare Candy to also maximize our chances of getting the turn 2 Solgaleo Rare Candy energy for Soul Burst GX. From there, 4 VS Seeker just to respam the supporters that we play. We play a few techie ones. It looks like we play like a weird mix of all sorts of supporters in here, but I'll discuss them as I go. 1 of Olympia. Even though we have Ultra Road, Garbodor is a really big factor in the format. So we need to have Floatstones and Olympias in here. Because Solgaleo gets rid of all the energy from itself, it can just get stranded, and I found against like Fright Night Yveltal, it can get stranded and you can just lose games off that alone. So I like having the Olympia in here to guarantee switches with the VS Seeker. We are playing 2 Lysandre to make sure that we can blow up the right things. If we're going to spend 230 damage on a Pokemon, we better make sure that it's an important Pokemon on their board. So Lysandre helps us do that. 2 Lillie. Lillie's really cool. It's a great opening turn 1 supporter for us. Drawing up to 8 is very strong, helping us get lots of these basics down and giving us a large hand size for the following turn. Having a likely Candy Solgaleo is pretty cool for us. The 2 Skyla is going to help find the one piece that you don't have at the time. So if you have the Candy in hand, you can Skyla for Ultra Ball. If you have Ultra Ball in hand or Solgaleo itself, we can Skyla for Rare Candy, and it just increases our odds of getting the turn 2 Solgaleo. Additionally, it can fish out the Rod, it can, the Max Potion, or things like Floatstone as well. So Skyla is a very worthy 2 count. I remember back when Stage 2s were very popular, oftentimes Skyla was a 3 or 4 of. So 2 of is kind of casual right now, but I feel like it's all we need because we do have things like Lillie N and Sycamore in decent counts in here that we get away with it. It is still fairly slow in today's format, to be honest. Only 2 Professor Sycamore. We're preferring higher counts of Lillie and N because you don't really want to discard pieces of your combo. Like, if you want a Sycamore, getting rid of Candies and Solgaleos, that actually hurts you. So you'd rather do physical draw with Lillie rather than dump and draw with Sycamore, or just hand refresh with an N. So Sycamore is still powerful. He's still going to net you a load of cards, but you have to be careful about resource management. So we just like the 2 of in here. Then we have 3N. N is also a pretty good turn 1 supporter, just for some hand refresh once you've used all the balls and stuff to thin your hand out. Additionally, once you get into a good cycle with this deck, once you've set up Solgaleo, set up Lurantis, and you're in this loop of ultra roading between one another, getting those attacks off, you really just let the board state win you the game. You don't actually need any cards in your hand other than maybe an extra attachment per turn. So you really don't mind firing off mid to late game ends, even if you're only drawing like 3 cards off it yourself, because your board state is most likely going to be stronger than your opponent's, because you can nuke things and you just have high HP stuff. So N is also very, very strong. 2 Floatstones. Again, you can't back on Ultra Road the whole time because Garbodor's everywhere. So Floatstone on some of these chunky things is going to be nice for you. And then the energy count is simply 11. It's going to be 4 grass. Bear in mind, it's most important to have metal in the deck because Sunsteel Strike's the main attack that we use, and Soulburst GX is the most important attack. What's great about Soulburst is that it gets any energy out of the deck, so even though we only play 4 grass, we can easily access it because we have Synthesis that can find it, and we have Soulburst GX that can find it, so it's very rare that you're going to be struggling to find grass energy for your Lurantis because you've probably, manually searched them out anyway from the deck. So we don't need to have a high count. I still like having 4 because it means that Solar Blade is a valid option and good attack. And bear in mind, Sunsteel Strike also has 1 colourless attack cost, so you can spread 1 grass here or there as well. And then just the 7 metal, because like I say, it's the more important of the 2 energy, really. It's the main one that lets us do our big old attacks with Solgaleo. So let's look at a few options. Really, I think you need to go as bare bones and as basic as possible with this list. It's not all about finding a cool tech supporter here, throwing in a Delinquent or a Counter Stadium. We just ignore all that stuff because we think that our own damage is the most important thing in the list. And getting that going is so difficult that we need to just completely be focused on that alone. But for Pokemon, you may consider a couple other EXs. Things like Genesect EX with the drive change can hold onto your Floatstones, which is nice. And Rapid Blaster is, again, like I was saying with Lurantis, it's pretty good at combating the non-EX decks. Genesect is similar in that regard because he can do 100 base for 3 metal, which is more consistent than a Solgaleo if you're in a non-EX matchup. And you do have the option to discard more energy to scale up that way as well. You can potentially even get 1 hit just like a Solgaleo could. So that's potentially a decent option. Right now I'm happy with Cobalion. Cobalion's a lot slower, but it's just cheaper, and I like, with the amount of discard of energy that we have, I like having the cheaper option, to be honest. But Genesect is a more aggressive option to deal with Glaceon, and in general he's just good throughout the game, whereas Cobalion only gets good later on. But the main thing is, if you're committing that much energy to a Genesect, it may as well be to either Solgaleo or Lurantis, whereas Cobalion is very niche, and he's a cheap attacker. That's the main reason I like him. Lugia EX is also another one that you could consider. He's been thrown into a lot right now, just because he can attack fairly well for cheap energy cost, and there's no difference here. Error Ball is still a decent attack. Having a couple of these EXs in your deck may be advisable, just for when you have only Solgaleo set up and then your bench is full of basic 60 HP Pokemon. You sort of scratch your head and think, where do I even want a Soul Burst? And you end up like attaching 1 energy to everything just to sort of protect it, and it doesn't really work out great for you. So having 1 or 2 EXs in the list may not be a bad idea, just so that you have a safe target to start slapping energy onto. So that's a decent option for you. Potentially something like Professor Letter might even sneak into this list with the couple Skyla that we have in here. We are playing a split of energy, but ultimately I haven't found it too big of an issue. Another one is going to be weakness policy. You can see on the right side of your screen that one of the weaknesses is just the whole deck is weak to fire. And although it's not an auto loss Volcanion, you're definitely not favoured. having 1 or 2 weakness policy in the list probably does make you favoured, because you put a weakness policy on Solgaleo, you blow up a Volk EX, even if you don't have a weakness policy on Lurantis, you still get 1 flower supply in, then that gets the knockout, and then you bring up your next Solgaleo, and then you blow up another Volcanion, and they can't even respond on it a couple of times. So weakness policy probably is good, but only if you're expecting a lot of Volcanion. I'm personally not thinking there's going to be a huge amount, enough to really make you ruin the deck's consistency. Not that it completely gets wrecked, but even finding like 1 or 2 spots, like I worked very hard to find 1 space for max potion, so you're going to do well to find 2 spaces to make weakness policy worth it, personally. The final thing is the option for playing Rainbow Energy in the deck. You can, because Soul Burst can get any type of energy out of the deck. So if you want to go even more colourful with your Pokemon attacking lineup, you could play Glaceon of your own, or something like that. I think the top 32 list did play Glaceon, and I think they did play Rainbows. The reason I'm not playing Rainbows right now is that you can't recycle it with Flower Supply, and I think that is important. It's a huge factor of the deck. And I think, again, I just want to go bare bones and simple with the list. I think that's the best way, personally, to go about it. But Rainbows and getting creative with lots of different Pokemon is still an option for you. So, lots to talk about with this deck. Let's try and find it, and also find some games. I've got it here somewhere. There we go. I've got so many decks built right now because I'm testing so much. Sun and Moon. But yeah, this is a really fun one. It feels kind of awkward. You can see again on the weaknesses, I've just put that it's an evolution deck. That sort of sums up the fact that it's inconsistent at times, it's slow at times, and it can just sort of not work at times. Just like a Greninja deck, really. That's how you have to see it. It doesn't really get going till turn like 3 in terms of damage, but then once you do, you have a dominant board state. So it's very similar to the playstyle of Greninja. Although the way you get your damage is very different to Greninja. So if you're used to playing those sorts of setup decks and you like those sorts of decks, maybe try this out, because it could be fun. And as long as there's enough Mewtwo in the format to deter Volcanions, it may not be too bad. We have an awful opening hand, so we'll see what we can top deck. Otherwise, this whole inconsistency thing reveals itself very early on. Like I say, we have a lot of good top decks here. We have lots of physical Pokemon, lots of good top decks as well, but we didn't get any, so we'll just attach and pass. I'm going to attach the grass rather than the metal, because if we actually do find a Cosmog, we need to have the metal in hand, because we're already sat on Candy Solgaleo. Oh wow, the opponents had a slow start too, attaching to Hooper. Unless they have Ninja Boy or something. They might just be going to play an N. Oh, they're going to play Sycamore. Oof, that's a lot of darks in the discard straight away. Looks like it's Turbo Dark from the opponent, because it's Silent Lab and stuff. The Ace Train is an interesting one. Maybe it's a mirror-centric card. Here we're going to see an Ultra Ball. Now we know that hand's pretty strong, because they Ultra Balled away a male and an N. They're going to go for Baby Veltol, I think. Yep. Going to see a Max Elixir, which does indeed hit. Floatstone to Hooper. Going to see the Retreat. And an Oblivion Wing for 30. Plenty of darks in there. Obviously Hooper's the only target. Let's see what we can draw. Oh, an N, the dream. I'm going to attach a grass to the active, and we're going to N. Putting grass in the discard isn't too horrible for us. And we do hit some baby Pokemon, which is great news. We can just go for the Levelball. I'm going to find another Cosmog. It's more important to secure Solgaleo, definitely. So we'll just put these down. And we'll just pass. let's see what we can do now. Saved by the end. Here's Darkrai. Turbo Dark typically isn't often that bad of a matchup for us. As long as we do our thing, we should be fine. 250 is a huge wall for them to get through. Even 210 on Lurantis takes a few turns. So, we should be groovy. We're going to see Ultra Ball for Shaymin. See a Max Elixir. Okay. I think they're digging for most likely a switch card at this point with a Shaymin. As long as they have a manual attachment for turn. Yep. The EXP share, interesting. And a Shaymin for 6. They decided to Ultra Ball rather than like... They tossed a VS Seeker just to set up. That's interesting. It gives them a lot more dig potential to find like a rope or something. But still. Opponent's using Trainer's Mail here. And they have a switch, so they can KO this Cobalion. Find another Darkrai. There's the switch into the Hooper with a Float Stone. And an N. I don't mind N. I mean, we didn't have the Solgaleo candy, so we'll see if we can draw into it. Doesn't look like it, but we can drop a few cards. We have Shaymin and we have Lillie, so we can do some stuff. We can get used to this Super Rod as well. So let's promote a Cosmog. Let's use Level Ball. We're going to find a Cosmoem. Going to evolve the bench. And the other bench Pokemon. Let's be believers and attach to Nebby. Get these back in the deck. Not that we particularly want to draw them, but we want more physical draws with Shaymin. And the dream, Skyla OP. We can Soul Burst. So, 2 go to the active. One goes to Lurantis. And 2 goes to Cosmoem. Even if they Lysandre KO Cosmoem, I'm not particularly worried, because then Solgaleo is free of damage. So, this has been very good. This has gone well. Let's see how the opponent can respond. Going to see an escape rope, which is incredibly good for us. The deck doesn't care about prize race. As long as you have board control, that's what's important. So I'm throwing a Shaymin their way. I don't mind that they can go down to 3 prizes, because now our board is incredibly strong. They actually retreat into Yveltal. They put down a parallel. This is going to be a really slow turn for them. So Lysandre KO is going to be so good for us. Oh my goodness. I feel very happy in this game now. I feel like we've already just won the game. It sounds bad to say that, but I think at this point, I don't see a way that they can beat our board state. Okay, here's Solgaleo. Here's Lysandre. Here's an Ultra Road. There's an attachment. And how do we lose from here? I shouldn't say that. You can always lose games, but our board state is incredible right now. And we've just taken 40 damage off their board. Oh, we did it. We got into the combo. The dream happened. We even got a VS Seeker for next turn, if they want to have a slow Yveltal turn, which might well be the case. Oh no, they're going in. Looks like they're trying to go in. Hmm. 15, yeah, 150. That's a ways away, let me tell you that. See a Lysandre onto the Solgaleo. Okay, I don't think that's that good for them. Especially because we're taking another 40 off their board this turn with a Soul Burst. Sorry, with a Sunsteel Strike. And it's just the fundamental of Pokemon that these guys just have big HP and hit really hard. And it's just doing everything that it needs to right now. This deck doesn't play Ability Lock. Its only form of lock is in Silent Lab, and obviously these are evolution Pokemon with abilities, so really it's just free to do its combo, and its combo is really, really, really good. They can't even end us out of this. We're in the dream right now. Living the dream. You can see a failed elixir, just to add to their concerns. There's a 140 damage Dark Pulse. I can just float stone this guy, and we're just going to Sycamore this hand. Gonna look for our one-off Max Potion. Oh, never lucky. Okay. I can even turn attach here if I wish. No, let's attach here, then we can do a Flower Supply, one to the active, one to the bench. That's smarter. I'd like to put down some Pokemon, but the parallel's there, so... So basically, to win this game, they need to hit 250 onto this guy. And they have 2 cards left in deck. And 1 elixir remaining. Their last elixir failed, so... I think we can high five and just win the game at this point. A Hex doesn't even get them there because we have the Float Stone. I think we're pretty comfortable. Like, they have to retreat in Oblivion Wing, but they're never going to win the game by doing that. Because if they have a slow turn, we can just Flower Supply again. We don't mind. Regardless, they need to end us. Yeah, they just concede. So, when things happen, it goes really well. But let's not forget the fact that we were bailed out by a top deck quite badly. So let's find another game, see what we can do. We're up against Evil Sack, which is an awesome name. We win the flip, which is always good news for an evolution deck. And we have a much better start. This is excellent. This is most good. We're going to lead Cosmog, because I'll be searching out second Cosmog. So although it looks like this is the more threatened Pokemon, because we're finding two, it actually means we protect the single Lurantis that we're playing. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to level, find Cosmog. Let's have a look. Okay, all of our Pokemon are in here. The Shaymins are here, the Cosmoems are here, Max Potion's in here. Okay, good news everyone. Looks like we're up against a Mewtwo. I'm actually just going to get rid of 2 VS Seekers here with this Ultra Ball. I value the attachment more. And I value having an Ultra Ball in hand for the next turn. More Nebbies. That's not really a strong hand. I could play a lot of it down, just keep the candy in hand, and use our other Shaymin. Yeah, we're going to do that. Cosmog's going to hit the bench. We're going to thin the hand even more. Because it's a deck I don't really know what I'm up against. I just want to play the hand down and get the Shaymin in now, just in case they play like... So many decks are just randomly playing Silent Lab at the moment that doesn't feel that good. Okay, that's not a great hand. But we always just pass here. They don't know that we have a bad hand. We just drew 6. We just drew 5, I mean. It's chill. We're good. We're really good. I should also mention that Dusk Gathering is a bailout option as well for Cosmog, drawing a card. It's really not good for you, but you can do it. Ooh, the opponent's got a bad hand as well. Giovanni to draw 1. Drawing less than a Kukui. Sad times. Professor's Letter, getting them 2 energies. There's 1 to the Deoxys, so they can even choose to draw more cards, which they do. Okay. We have a Cosmoem, and we're going to be gathering some dust here. We're going to evolve both our benched ones so that we can use Dust Gathering. Good luck us. Let's go Nebby. Ah, the end! The dream! So next turn they can Overdrive Smash to KO with weakness that we have. I'm much happier that Cosmog has weakness to Psychic than Dark, like the Lunala has, because it means that Oblivion Wing could otherwise just wreck us. Okay. Deoxys is coming. Oh, and they end us. Scared of the Dust Gathering. Must be. Do we get the dream? Oh, no dream. Well, Skyla's kind of the dream. It's an Ultra Ball, so that's all we really need. Let's go Lurantis. Let's get Ultra Ball. Okay, we'll just discard the Fomantis and then we'll super roll it back in. The Lillie's the worst of the supporters here. Makes me sad to say it, but in this spot it's the worst one. We can go Solgaleo. We can Rod up. Manual attachment is going to actually be to the Solgaleo, so I can Soul Burst onto other things. And let's burst. Third energy to active. I think I still go for 2 onto Cosmoem. And on to Lurantis. Sweet. We did it, guys. We built the board again. Only going down 1 prize. And the opponents had a fairly slow start themselves. There's a DC to the Mewtwo. There's a parallel. Getting rid of Shaymin. We don't mind that. That's another thing the deck doesn't mind. It's one of these lists that actually doesn't mind having a 3 bench, which is really weird. But also helpful because we don't actually play our own stadiums. So fortunate, I guess. There's another attachment. 3, 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 19, down to 170 with resistance. Ooh, up to 200 with resistance. Okay. We're not scared. We can blow it up. We're chilling. And we got another Solgaleo set up already, so we are super chilling. Could even just Ultra Road with this one. Is that better? Yeah, that's better. Get up out of here. Wrecked. By still attacking with this one, it sort of put pressure on them to find another attacker this exact turn. But with elixirs, I don't think it was that hard for them to do so. This way, it means we're less likely to get the max potion value, but we don't really need it either. We can wait all day. They're just going to find 1 Mega with the Hooper, and that might be the way they end their turn. Oh, they're choosing to Overdrive Smash for 10. Don't really agree with that. Maybe it fixes math that I'm unaware of. Let's just Flower Supply and set up the big dudes. Now, we don't have Lysandre in hand, so I might actually be attaching to the active here. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 2, 10. They need to have another turn of, like, lots of attachments. They didn't even find the Spirit Link. Okay, let's just put a grass to the active. Deal with this Deoxys real quick. He can Overdrive Smash for 60 this turn. Which he instantly does. Oh, 90, sorry, I should say. 9, 12, 15, 18. Trying to think if Olympia ever helps us here. I might Ultra Road into this and Olympia. Oh, I messed up. I shouldn't do this. Luckily, we have a second one. Hold on. Have I really messed this up? I think I've really messed this up. Yeah, I have. I shouldn't have clicked this. I should have Olympiad first, then just do it back. Now I've gone crazy. The troll, I guess. We'll play it off as a troll, and we'll just stick him all his hand. want to start finding Lysandres. Let's mill a card. Only one VS eco left? Okay. So one's prized. It's good to know. We still get a bit of heal with Solar Blade, so... Metal Energy is pretty good. In comes a Baby Hooper. There's an attachment. I don't think this is the most competitive Mewtwo list I've seen. Just going to throw it out there. But in general, we should have a strong Mewtwo matchup. I would say. Oh, 130 HP is so annoying. Am I actually going to have to KO this? I think I actually have to KO this. Alternative is get the Lysandre in now. Yeah, we'll get the Lysandre in now. That way, we just have 2 Soul Bursts to guarantee us the game. So we'll just attach here. Ultra Road this one in. We don't mind if this one gets KO'd because we'll be at 1 prize. So we'll just do these shenanigans. And that pretty much seals the game on board. On board presence alone. And that's, you know, what I've been saying the whole time. The deck can just win without actually having a hand at some points. Like, none of the cards in our hand affect how we win the game next turn. It's just Ultra Road attack. Easy peasy. And they're going to Mega for turn. So, literally, it's Ultra Road attack. Unless I misclick more. There we go. We got there, boys. Another game where Solgaleo Lurantis set up and dominated the board. Pretty cool. Did they really still have to promote a Pokemon? Yeah, okay, there we go. We got there. Right, let's have one more game. We've managed to play Turbo Dark and Mewtwo, even though the Mewtwo wasn't the most competitive list of Mewtwo. Those are the 2 most popular decks right now, and we absolutely bodied them. So that was cool. Let's see what else we can come up against. Looks like it wasn't a fire deck, which is great news. Actually going second this time, which is good. Well, not great, but... Looks like we're leading Fomantis. Have a decent, workable hand. And the opponent's mulled. Ooh, Revitalizers and Timables. Probably Decidueye. We saw Level, Timer, and Ultra Ball, so it's either Vileplume or Decidueye, right? Let's take a mulligan. Aha! Decidueye. We could get donked, guys. 60 HP. Could happen. 3 Decidueyes. We could lose. Decidueye ain't playing around. Ooh, double tails straight away. That's gross. That's like such a big difference. That's Rowlet into instant Decidueye if they flip more favourably. The Ultra Ball was 2 very good targets, so they already have a very strong hand here. Oh, they already had a Decidueye. That's gross. That's so gross. That's incredible. Okay. Let's compose ourselves. Floatstone attachment. Set up for 2. And Feather Arrow just once. And a pass. Yay. Okay. I'm going to be Skylaring here just for level ball. Because I want this Ultra Ball to also be a Cosmog. Don't think we particularly need Max Potion in this particular matchup. Additionally, it's one that gives us abilities the whole game, so we can just get rid of these 2 instead. Maybe Max Potion I'll play this turn. Yeah, that makes sense. It forces them to again find 2 more Decidueye, rather than just 1 more. Do I want to commit this energy? No. Okay. Let's see how many more Decidueye they can get on the board. Big old Sycamore. There's a Dartrix. And a Level Ball. Grabbing another Rowlet. There's a Decidueye. There's an Ultra Ball. Oh, geez. Ultra Ball Shaymin to dig. Ooh, they played Tauros. Yuck. We don't like Tauros because it hits for 60. Simple. Simple numbers. There's the DCE, so they can attack for a KO. There's a Rowlet. This is where we pray. Oh no! We're in so much trouble. We're down to one Cosmog on our board. Oh dear. Oh no. Decidueye things. Not my nebbies. That's really cool. And by cool I mean scary. Ugh. And there's the Razor Leaf. Really good pressure from the Decidueye early on. Oh, we didn't top deck like a genius. Could have done. Uh-oh. I think we've lost the game. Doing this because there's no point in trying to like get more Cosmogs down. I may as well go into Cosmoem, use its attack to finish my turn. So we're going to grab a Shaymin now and hope to find more basic Pokemon. Cosmog as bait. Ugh, scary. Teleport me out of here. Hope they don't have Lysandre. If they Lysandre, they can KO both of these and I just scoop. Oh, no Lysandre at least. Whew. It's a load off my mind. Oh my goodness, that's 4 Decidueyes on the board. Oh dear. They're going to be going to... They're going to take 3 prizes this turn, so they'll have 1 more prize to take. Oh dear. I don't think we're winning this, guys. I think we're getting absolutely torn apart by Decidueye. And unfortunately, that's what happens when you miss the things that you need. This list does not play Hexmaniac, so it has no defense against something like this. And unfortunately, that is one of the weaknesses. There's a town map. And there's the Razor Leaf knockout. Life doesn't get much easier for Decidueye than lower HP Pokemon. He's going to grab all those DCEs. Don't blame him. Okay, well there's Ultra Ball. Can one Solgaleo win me the game? I mean, if we end and hit Fomantis Lurantis, I'm happy. Nope. No, we concede here. Next turn they put on 170 and we've done no damage, so we never win the game. Right, almost went into another one, but that was 3 games, and I am already running late, so I need to be somewhere. But that was a little taste of Solgaleo Lurantis. In the first 2 games, we were able to develop that dominant board state, and in the 3rd game, we simply weren't. We missed the turn 2 Solgaleo, and already by turn 1, we were under a lot of pressure, to be honest. We lost 2 prizes by our 2nd turn. So that's pretty gross. The max potion didn't come into play as much as I would have liked in those games, but trust me, it's a one-off that's worth keeping around. It will save you games for those times when you have suboptimal setup and you're backing up 1 Solgaleo only and you don't have 2 in play. Just max potioning that up and ultra roading and attaching again to the same dude is just phenomenal for you. You saw I had 1 Solgaleo with a lot of damage on it. It's just I still happen to have lots of energy on it. But that's something to bear in mind. The max potion I think is really worth it. I think everything else should be as simple as possible. Potentially even cutting down the float stones to 0 for more consistency cards and just backing up 1 Olympia. That does make you much weaker against Garbodor, and it means that you probably have to Lysandre KO that thing with like Lurantis early on. But it's something to test out. Everything else I think is just raw consistency. Trainer's Mail is the only thing that's really lacking in this list. I prefer just having lots of physical supporters to guarantee we draw lots of cards. But that's something for you guys to test out. For now, please leave a like to this video if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And it's been Joe from Omnipoke, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.